This bungalow is being refurbished. The builders have built a stud wall in the bedroom to section off a little area for an ensuite bathroom. The bathroom fitter who's fitting the ensuite called me into this job to dab a plasterboard on a window wall in that room. You may have just seen that in the video previous to this one. The lads that have been plastering this job are finished now and they won't be coming back. And the customers asked me if I'd kindly just throw a little piece of coving in that section there to finish the room off. He's a lovely bloke, so I couldn't say no. Cove mitre, okay? When you're using this, you always want it pointing away from you. And the point is always pointing to the ceiling, okay? So you always want it pointing away from you. And you're gonna cut here, and that's going to have a length, that's going to make it an internal angle, okay? And the offcut of that is an external angle for the opposite side. So for instance, over this side, this part of the wall up here, yeah? I'm going to put the cove mitre pointing away from it like that. I'm going to cut the cove this way, and that's going to give me an internal angle for there. And then when I want the internal angle for that side, I'll take this to the other end of the cove, put it there, and I'll put it that side, and that puts an internal angle on the length of the cove. Does that make sense? You'll see in action now. So we nipped down to our local builders merchants to pick up a length of cove. They didn't have plaster core coving in stock. The only thing they had was super cove, which is polyurethane cored cove. It's exactly the same, it's just lightweight. Okay, so you imagine now, we want this to just stick straight up onto the ceiling like that, okay? This is going to be the ceiling edge, this is going to be the wall edge. Now if you look on the back of these, if you look on the back of this, sometimes it'll say ceiling edge and wall edge. It doesn't really matter. Not on this, because that is symmetrical. It's the same, so it doesn't matter ceiling edge or wall edge, not any difference. So what you want to do is, you decide in your head which is going to be the top. So I'm going to say, like, this, ceiling edge, wall edge. You always have this pointing away from you. I want to put an internal angle on this. So the angle you use is here. You want to just push that down gently. Don't push it down too hard because it'll dig in here and you don't want to start leaving lines here. So just gently hold it in place. Keep the saw on the edge of that. Always make sure that your saw is cutting against the side of the cove mitre and rubbing against it. That way you'll get a perfect mitre for a 90-degree angle. There you go. And that's an internal angle. So hook your tape on the extremity of the cut because that's where the wall finishes. Okay. Okay, so where's my line here? I've marked it on there with a stand knife. There. Now what you want is, if you look down the mitre, okay, you want to visualise that line running straight through and past the end here. It'd help if these little nibs on the end were longer, but they're not. But that's where it goes there anyway. Okay. That's the right angle if you had two internals buttoned up next to each other, okay? Mitered. That's what that is. Cove mitre. But we're going to scribe it, so now we know that that is the right shape. So we just need to cut this back off flush and then a little adjustment around the top and it'll fit in perfect. If I was coving the whole room from the beginning to the end, that would create a nice little 90-degree mitre in the corner of two new pieces of coving. But I'm joining in to a piece that is already fitted that isn't mitered, so now I'm going to have to scribe this piece of coving to fit into the existing piece of coving. I remember working on a job once and there was another plasterer there, and it was the same situation. A room had already been coved, there was a wall built across the room, and now an extra piece of the coving had to be fitted on the new wall. And the plasterer that was doing it was trying to put a mitre on the existing piece of coving that was already stuck up. So he had his cove mitre holding it up on the ceiling and then trying to cut the same line with his standing knife trying to put the mitre in. It was absolute chaos. Definitely much easier just to scribe a piece to fit in. Right, so that's one side scribed, but you've got to remember that it curves in, so it needs taking out the back a little bit like so. Okay, so when you scribe the side, you've also got to shave the top of the back out. So we do that the same on the other side, and that'll fit in just nice. Okay, that's it. Now, all you're worried about getting lined up, all you need to concentrate on is the bottom. Okay, you don't need to worry about the top. Just make sure that the bottom is the same height when you check it. From there to there, the bottom fits in perfect. So that's it now, cut and scribed the top piece. Now when you're putting this out the way, you don't want to put it on the floor where someone's going to stand on it. Face it in towards the wall and just lean it up against the wall like that. It won't go anywhere, it'll just stay there. Okay, now, if this is painted, if there was paint already on this, you need to seal it with PVA or SPR. Because it's bare plaster, and we're going to use plasterboard adhesive to stick it up, we're going to wet it down, okay? So if it's painted, you're going to seal it. If it's bare plaster, you can just wet it. And you want to wait till the water's dried off it and it's just damp. You don't want to try and put it up whilst there's water dripping and down it. It'll be sliding everywhere, so. I'm dampening the background to kill the suction so that when we put the coving up, the dry plaster doesn't draw all the moisture out of the adhesive that we're using. I'm going to use plasterboard adhesive as opposed to cove adhesive, just because I've got it on the van. Cove adhesive is really expensive and it's not really necessary. It is a lot more fine, it's nicer to use, but you can use drywall adhesive. On the building sites, all we ever used was drywall adhesive. Okay, so when you're sticking this in place, all you're concerned about is getting the bottom member in line with the bottom of the, well, you'll see, I'll show you. The bottoms have to meet up, not necessarily the top, okay? The top doesn't matter, wherever that lands, it's fine. So I'm just lining in the bottom and making sure the bottom's on the right level. Like so, okay? The bottom has to be in the right place. We'll come over to this side. See here, all I'm interested in is making sure that bottom is the same height. You can adjust it up and down a little bit. There, that's it, done. Work your way along. Make sure all the adhesive just oozes out a little bit from the top and the bottom. That's it. Okay. The suction of the plaster holds that in place. And because we've damped it down, the plaster won't dry out too fast because this is very porous. Imagine like a sponge, and we've filled the sponge up full of water, so it's not trying to draw any more water out of the plaster. So that's fine now. That'll stay wet for a little while, but we're going to clean it straight. We're going to clean it down straight away. Okay, now you can use spatulas and different things, but you can just use your trowel as well. So I'm just watching what's going on. Leighton's just moving around. I don't know what he's doing. I just want him to stay still. Cue the cheesy how-to music. And once you begin to cove down like that, next thing you want to do is just take your brush. You've got to get the angle of this right. What you don't want to do is dig into the adhesive, okay? So you want to keep your brush at a right angle. So to clean this seam line off and the member there, you want to keep that at a right angle. same for the bottom, keep it at right angle. Now all we're going to do now is just fill the 2 miters, and then that's it, finished. Different tools you can use for mitering. Ideally you want to use a joint rule, but I had a little case full of joint rules. Someone's pinched them, they've gone missing. All you're going to do first is fill the joint up, and then you're going to use the blade of the scraper to cut it back to the right shape. Zoom in a little bit so you can see me, okay? So, I just start at the top, fill that in first, and then start working my way down. Just filling it all in. Squidge it in. Like so. Keep cleaning it out until it's exactly the right shape where you want it. What you don't want to do is never go into the mitre with your brush. Once you've filled it like that, that's it, done. So just zoom in a little bit there so you can see that. You see, nice and filled. All the little discrepancies, little creases where the saw caught it and stuff, all filled out nice. That's ready to be painted once it's dried out. We'll do the other side. Right, this side is almost perfect. Needs hardly any filler in it at all, any adhesive to fill it. That's it, done, job done. So that is how you go about scribing, mitering and scribing a length of coving to meet up with the 2 pieces that are already in. Right, so I'll show you quickly all the different angles you can do with a wonder miter. Don't bother with a plastic one because they flex, get a metal one, okay? So, what you always want to do is have this always pointing away from you, okay? When you become quite smart, then you can think about it, you can have it facing you, but just whilst you're learning, always have that pointing away. That is the ceiling line up there, okay? This is the wall edge, this is the ceiling line, okay? So, when you've got your piece of cove like that, if you want it to go up there, okay, if you want that to be up to the ceiling there, and you want an internal angle here, right? When you want an internal angle, it's going to go there. That's your internal, okay? Now the offcut, this is going to put an internal on this side, like this. So you rest your saw up against it, okay? Don't have it stood up. You lay it on the angle of the miter. Okay? That is an internal angle now, so when you go up there, you have another internal angle that will butt up against it. Now, the offcut, this piece is an external angle for the opposite side. this will make more sense now when I do this side for you. So again, facing away from you. Now, what you've got now is this piece. We've got two internal angles, one for the right hand side of the wall, one for the left hand side of the wall, depending on where you want. And the offcuts are two external angles, okay? So imagine if you had a corner like that, and that's how they'll meet up like that to go around corners and what have you, okay? That makes sense. Internals, externals. Now, internal angle for the right hand side. Let's do another internal angle. And you'll see what I mean. Okay. So now I've got two internal angles, and they would go on a 90 degree like that. Okay. So two internal angles. So third, when you're looking at that, you always have that pointing away from you. Internal angle, and the offcuts, the outer side pieces, create external angles depending on which side you want. Now, a couple of things to keep in mind. Whenever you're measuring and marking, I always work to the back edge there. So when you put a mark on this with your pencil, let's just say I haven't got a pencil, but let's just say it's a pencil mark there. Oh, yes. Let's say you put a pencil mark there. So you always want to work on the back edge, the wall edge. So if I'm going to cut there, I want it in my vision, I want to sight it down that. And look, it needs to be about, you look down that. Yeah, you can see there it lines up. So that's where you want to be. Just cut there.